Hello, welcome back to Math 110. We're going to continue on with lesson 2.2. So, first skill today we're going to work on is using order of operations. An order of operations is a group of agreed upon rules that will allow us to write calculations involving more than one operation without always having to use parentheses or other grouping symbols to indicate which operation to do first. Sometimes we will do those parentheses, and that helps us, but without those parentheses, there's still rules that we need to follow. The order is as follows, with operations higher on the list being performed before those lower on the list. If there are two operations tied, like two multiplications or a multiplication and a division, we're going to be performing those left to right. Grouping symbols can indicate a different order. That tells us that this is what we want to do first. So here's the order. The parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, or subtraction. And the way we've always, a mnemonic for remembering this was, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication or division, and then addition or subtraction. So here we have no grouping, we have no parentheses, no exponents to do. So if we go down the list, do we see multiplications or divisions? We're going to do this first. So we're going to do the multiplication, 3 times 4, and then once we're in here, everything else is at that same level of addition or subtraction. We just go left to right. 12 plus 12 is equal to 24. So here I don't want to do the multiplication first. I've got parentheses, but there's really no operations in there. It's just kind of like, is this 3 or negative 3? We're going to square it first, our exponents. 3 squared is 9. 4 times 9 is 36. So here here would be, if I just look at this, I've got multiplication, division. So, but I've got my parentheses first. So I want to do that first. 12 minus 3 is 9. And then the 81 divided by 9 is the 9. So here I just have things that are all kind of, just a list of operations, no parentheses, no exponents. So here, this grouping is all at that same level of multiplication or division. So I want to do what's in here first, but I want to do it left to right because there's no other higher order. So 8 divided by 4 is my 2. 2 times 6 is 12, and then I go down once I follow that. So here's another one. I've got some things that we've looked at last time where I've got stuff in the numerator, operations in the denominator. I want to do the things in the numerator, take care of those first. Those are at the lowest part of the list, but I've got to do those first because this is like grouped together with that long division sign or that long fraction sign. So negative 2 divided by 8, negative 1 divided by 4. Here's a bigger group. I want to, and I have calculations containing multiple levels of parentheses. I want to do the innermost first and then work backwards from there, working out. 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Then I'm going to square that to give me the 64. 64 minus the 4, that gives me the 60. So I'm worked out from there. Okay. So here's some other ones. We can work on those in lab if you'd like. Try to take a look at them, and we'll see where we need to work on. So here's our next set of topics that we're going to work on, and this is the concept of variables. So what is a variable? When I'm talking about something mathematical, a variable is something that can take on several values. I need to let something, I don't know what the value is, a number, but I want to be able to do operations with it. Some length times 2, some length times 3, divide by 4. So that length that I don't really know, I have to use something as a placeholder. That's all I'm talking about is a placeholder. So one of the common ones that they use is x, the letter x. Let this letter x be a number. It's a placeholder until I find out what it is, and then I'm going to do similar operations, the math around it, and then either someone's going to tell me what the value is for X, or through some logical work, as I simplify things down, I can work backwards to find out what that X is. Okay? So in formula, a variable is a quantity that is able to change or vary, and contrast that with a constant. So if I have a number 12, that's a constant. It's not going to change anything. X may not change, but we don't know what it is, or it could take on several values. Okay? So X is either a number or a variable that can vary at time. Like time can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 9, 10 seconds from some point in time. So it can vary throughout a range of numbers. Or it may be just that length that when I multiply the length times 2, I get 40. Well, that's obviously 20. 40 divided by 2 is 20, so 2 times 20 was the 40. In either case, I'm going to use that letter as a variable. Which sentence makes more sense? The amount of time you spend studying depends on the grade you earn in a course. So there's two types of variables. I've got an independent variable and a dependent variable. The independent variable is like that time that just ticks away no matter how much I would like for it to stop for a little while so I can take a break. I can't do it. So that's the independent variable. And then the dependent variable is that thing that I'm doing the calculation from that independent variable. So some things are naturally independent. Some things I can treat either one and get away with it. It would be okay. So let's see which one we can do. Which sentence makes more sense? The amount of time you spend studying depends on the grade you earn in a course. So this is like, okay, Mr. Webb, if you give me an A, I'll study 5 hours a week. Usually doesn't work that way. You have to study 5 hours a week to get your A, right? So the grade you earn in a course depends on the amount of time you spend studying. This is the one that makes more sense. Okay? List other factors that are likely to impact your grade in the course: attendance, participation, homework completion, attitude. So your grade is the dependent variable. These are the independent things that is either going to happen or not. They're independent, and then your grade depends on them. Okay? Because these factors can cause a change in your course grade and not the other way around. The course grade, which can vary, is referred to as a dependent variable. Other factors like the amount of time you spend studying are called independent variables. Independent variables cause changes in dependent variables. Think of it as your grade depends on the factors you identified. So consider the following relationships where one quantity or event causes another to change. Identify the independent and the dependent variable in each case, and don't forget to think about why it makes sense to define them as this. The age of a tree and the height of the tree. Well, you don't get the height first and then get to pick the age, right? You can determine the age from the height, but the age of the tree is really the independent variable. That's the thing that's going to happen, whether you want it to or not. And then the dependent is the height. So the longer you give it the time, the more it grows. The number of practice sections and the quality of a musical performance. Independent is the number of practice sessions. You don't get to do a good performance first and then say, okay, well, if I do a good one, then later on I'm going to do the practice, the practice sessions afterwards. So this comes first, then that good musical performance. Your score on a placement test and the math courses you've taken previously. So again, this is one of those things previously. If you've taken a number of math courses, you would probably do better on a placement test. So the independent is the math courses you've taken. So it's kind of the preview time and then the test. Your blood pressure and the amount of time you spend exercising each week. Again, this kind of comes before. You do a lot of good exercise, you get your blood pressure. You can't say, well, if I had good blood pressure, I'm going to do a lot of exercising. It doesn't work that way. You may say, I've got good blood pressure and I want to maintain it, but that's part of keeping it there and for you in the future. So consider the following relationship. One quantity of the event causes another to change. Identify the independent and the dependent. So the value of a share of Apple stock and what year it is. So independent of the year, anything that has to do with that time or coming first is usually the independent, and then the dependent, the value of a share of Apple stock. The number of songs a band sells on iTunes and the amount of money spent on marketing. Well, this usually comes first, right? You have to spend the money on marketing. That's the independent variable. And then hopefully you will sell more songs on iTunes. The cost of a cab ride and the number of miles you're driven. Well, again, you're going to be driven those miles first, and then you're going to get charged for them. Independent, the number of miles you're driven, and then the cost of the cab ride. So here, the number of customers you want to buy a certain product and the price of that product. This can be argued both ways. You know, do you want, if a lot of customers are buying it, then apparently it's a good price. If you give them a good price, then they will buy it. That's why they say it can be argued in both ways. Okay, so that's the end of that lection. I hope you found it informative. Hope you have a good day.